But first up, we have an exclusive that hits closer to home for many of us, me, some of our viewers who would love to indulge in some sweet treats. Can you imagine celebrating a birthday or a special occasion with a lip-smacking cake only to learn that it could be poisoning you slowly? Let's dive into this troubling news coming in from Karnataka, where my colleague Neha brings us this exclusive report.
Do you fancy the blissful comfort of red velvet melting in the mouth, or the crunch of a butterscotch crystal? If you have a sweet tooth, these heavenly treats probably will have your mouth watering already. But beware, the sweet treats you are digging into could cause some very bitter consequences, including cancer. The Karnataka Food Safety Department has shockingly found the presence of carcinogenic substances in a few varieties of cakes that were tested at random from bakeries around the city. The cakes were found to have coloring agents like Allura Red, Sunset Yellow, and Tartrazine Carmosine in excess quantities, linking it to serious health issues, including cancer.
No, what we've initiated in our department is that on a regular basis, monthly, that they should take up certain food products and take samples and test them if they are being if any substances that are being used like coloring agents and other preservatives which are carcinogenic and not good for health. So that should be checked and verified. So we are doing it on a regular basis, and now every month we put out a report.
While the government has begun its crackdown against bakeries not adhering to safety standards, health experts have warned people of the hazards and advocated for mindful eating. What can we do to keep ourselves safe?
So mainly the vibrant colors, what has been used in the cakes, is mainly affecting the health. It may be either through the carcinogenic effect, and recently the rhodium B, which was being restricted for kebabs and chicken kebabs and also for Manchurian, is been restricted because of the carcinogenic effect what it has. And recently the pastries and the cake, what they usually prefer, it is too vibrant and synthetic color. Instead of that, they can go for a normal and natural colors which doesn't impact the health on their intake.
But do not panic and do not demonize. In response to these findings, the Karnataka Bakers, Sweets and Confectionaries Association has made a humble appeal to the authorities and public at large not to paint a black picture of the entire baking community.
Don't generalize the issue and make all the bakers and all the products available in the bakery as culprit. Today, there are a lot of bakers under MSME, and there are also a lot of big brands who are following the norms specified by FSSAI.
Well, the last thing that we at Mirror Now want is to dampen your festive spirits. But the concerns raised by the Food Safety Department in Karnataka could very well apply to any of your favorite eateries in your hometowns as well. So as we savor our favorite sweet treats, let's all be a little bit more mindful. In Bengaluru, with video journalist Sunil, this is Neha Hebbale for Mirror Now.
So, of course, this is an exclusive story which has come to us from Bengaluru, but this has pan-India repercussions, which is why I have been joined with me by a very esteemed panel, Dr. Anand Sharma, National Chairman of the Consumer Confederation of India, Mahesh Zagadi, who is the former Food Commissioner of Maharashtra, Professor and Dr. Sudhir Kumar, who will give us a very important medical perspective. But also another important caveat I would like to give at this point here. At no point did we at Mirror Now saying that all the cakes that have been sampled in Bengaluru or all the bakeries that have been operating in Bengaluru or Karnataka are putting artificial banned colors in their products here. It's a very important disclaimer that needs to be set out, which is why I also have with me on my panel, I'm very glad to have her as well, my colleague Neha, who has filed this exclusive report for our viewers. Neha, first, take us through your findings in the ground report that you did while you came up with the story And what were the things which you got to know in terms of the number of, perhaps a proportion of bakeries in where these samples turned out to be having these carcinogenic additional added colors?
Well, yes, Ritangshu, of course, we're now seeing that after this report, in fact, came out, we ourselves did a ground check. We, in fact, visited multiple bakeries in Bengaluru city. And what, of course, we found was while some of the smaller bakeries, probably, of course, have smaller kitchens where, there isn't, of course, access to, to a customer, to a common man, there are several other bigger bakery branches or the bigger brand outlets, in fact, that actually allow people to see the cakes being made, which of course, possibly gives them some respite that maybe harmful and chemical substances aren't being put in these cakes when there is the customer watching. But with that being said, of course, we've heard here from the bakers. We've also now heard from, people, of course, from health experts there who've sounded a warning because of the kind of toxic substances that some bakeries, of course, are using. While it is quite concerning here that carcinogenic substances are being found, it was earlier banned in gobi Manchurian, in cotton candy as well. The government, of course, has taken measures. But now the fact that, of course, it's come down to our sweet treats is definitely a little bit of a worry.
Indeed, and that's also a very important point now, which you mentioned, that while currently the scrutiny is on bakery products at this point, it's not the first time we have had this problem of additional of artificial colors being added to street snacks. We've had this with cotton candy, we've had it with kebabs and street side vendors who have been selling kebabs and gobi Manchurians, etc. as well. Neha, stay on with us because I really do need and value your perspective on this as well. But first, let me go across to Mahesh Zagade, former Food Commissioner of Maharashtra, joining us at this point. Mr. Zagade, this is, of course, a story which my colleague has got to us from Bengaluru. But according to your understanding here, how much of relevance does it have for the rest of the country? Because, as I said, this is not the first time we have dealt with the increasing concern and the rising need to crack down on these artificial colors that are being put, especially at street vendors or bakeries which are not prominent chains by themselves, to try and ensure and try and entice customers on account of the visual appeal of their products.
Ritangshu, first let me thank the Mirror Now for taking up this issue, which is very important, not for just Bengaluru or Karnataka, for the entire nation. And this is not just restricted to the cakes or the color in the cakes. It is like 3 meals minimum that we consume daily. Those are also like they are now being put to question. This particular investigation carried out by the Karnataka Food Safety Commissioner and his machinery appears to have unveiled or uncovered certain chemicals that are used in excess quantities, these chemicals being the coloring agents. Now, under the rules and regulations, some colors are permitted, but with the restriction of quantity that's there. Now, these colors, if are used in excess quantity, they cause cancer. These are highly carcinogenic. And this is just some colors which are permitted. But there are some colors which are not even permitted also. So the pure chemical dyes used in textiles or some of those can also be used, which we do not know. So while tackling this particular menace, right from the international level, that Codex Alimentarius Commission, WHO and the FAO, they have formulated certain guidelines and standards which we have emulated and incorporated in our law that was enacted by Parliament in 2006 and implemented from 2011. Now, there is the now critical point. The law says that no such element of a food should be like sold or consumed by the people. And that is the responsibility of the Food Safety Authority of India and Food Safety Commissioners to take action after the food is consumed. No, that is not allowed in the law. First thing is that it should not come to the table or the plate of the consumer. For that, it is all licensed, seen right from the manufacturer, transporter, and vendor. Now, vendor, even if it is small, like Panwala, or any such a small outlet, they have to take registration and comply with all these regulations and then see that no untoward chemical is added or any such material which can cause health hazard is there. So it is the responsibility of the Food Safety Commissioner and his machinery. See, since we are talking about the color, this could be a brownie point for the Food Safety Commissioner of Karnataka that they have unearthed this thing and now they have given warning. What kind of warning? This should not be warning. This should be stern action against those bakery wala, which is provided in the law, that if you are adding such chemicals in the quantity in excess that is allowed, that means it's like a poison. You are putting somebody's life in danger, and action commensurate with that kind of danger should be taken up, and not just this thing. See, this is like I had been Food Safety Commissioner for 3 years, and let me tell you, you have to give registration to each and every food establishment in your state. Maharashtra had that time 7 lakh such establishments, and you have to train them what is right and what is wrong. Probably small bakery walas and small such vendors and establishments, probably they do not know the implications of such chemicals or what is the quantity that is allowed and all that. So you have to have the sensitization program, training program across the state all over, and of course Food Safety Authority, they have to monitor this. I think this entire thing has been like broken down. The monitoring and implementation of the Food Safety and Standards Act and the regulations which have come from 2011 are broken down. It is just one incident of the color. There are many such incidents that keep on coming every now and then all across the country. But unfortunately, public memory is very short, and we just forget that.
Exactly. That's again, I'm at pains to stress this. A lot of our viewers may be tuning in right now on Mirana and wondering why we are doing a story which would probably be at odds with what they would be seeing in other places. But this is not something that's coming just from Bengaluru. This is something which, as Mahesh Zagade has pointed out, is something that you keep hearing from across the country. There are two important takeaways from your opening argument, Mahesh Zagade. I'll come to Dr. Anand Sharma on the first one. Dr. Sharma, Mr. Zagade mentioned that when it comes to colors, there's a category of colors which are absolutely prohibited. There's a category of colors which are allowed, but only under certain conditions. Now, as a consumer, how do I even begin to understand? There have been a lot of advances in the last few years over consumer awareness in terms of having a clear demarcation over whether a product is vegetarian or non-vegetarian, whether a product is halal or not, and even in terms of the macros and the nutrients and the calories and ingredients of a product here. But when it comes to colors, a very complex technical subject here where the colors, the long chemical names of colors often don't ring a bell. We don't know. I'm sure most of us don't go and research the names we see at the back of a wrapper as to whether these colors are permissible or not. How do we start bringing about a sense of consumer awareness to try and understand that the colors of a food product, as much as the ingredients of it, could be equally as dangerous?
It is very unfortunate that adulteration of harmful colors and synthetic dyes has been found in various samples of the cakes and pastries in Karnataka. But it is not a story of cakes, or it is a story of the Karnataka. In the entire country, it's a common practice that in seeds and cooked vegetables, they are also using such harmful colors. And I feel that consumer awareness is the second part. First part is very important, that FSSI should take action, fast action and punishable action, because I feel just after the matter of the Tirupati Laddus, it was also a failure of the FSI. They given the license to the Tirupati Devasthanam, and then Laddus was found with adulterated milk.
That's true.
I think that is proving to be efficient and is not able to effectively implement to the prevent of food adulteration acts such like Food Safety and Standard Authority Act. So I think that there is a failure in the system, not only on the level of the FSI, but also at the level of the food safety commissioners at the different state levels, and the FSIs and the food safety officers who are doing the work.
All right. Now that brings me to the other important takeaway that came out from Mahesh Zagade's opening argument. And for that, let me go back to Neha, I will come to you, Dr. Sudhir Kumar, so I beg your patience for just a few more minutes. Neha, uh, from what I understand based on the reports, about if I'm 5 to 10% of the samples that were bakeries that were surveyed by the Karnataka body were turned out to be those which were adding these artificial colors. Now, on one hand, yes, kudos to the Karnataka Health Ministry. We heard Mr. Gundu Rao's statement in your report talking about how they plan to make it a monthly thing and keep the media in the loop. But for those bakeries who have been found to be coming up with these adulterated artificial colors, what is the action that we're looking at? Mr. Zagade, for point mentioned, there has to be punitive action. But from what I understand, even sometimes the bakers themselves don't know as to whether the colors they add to their products are safe or not.
Well, that's absolutely right, Ritangshu. In fact, even what the health minister there mentioned was a fact that many of these bakers, probably the smaller ones, are not even aware of the fact that these substances, are probably, prohibited, of course, or are maybe, not to be used in such excessive quantities. Now, of course, what we are being told from the health department currently is that while about, 12 of these varieties in many bakeries were found to have these substances added in excessive quantities, they are, of course, going to be issued notices over there. They're also, of course, going to be warned about this and about not complying with the food safety norms or the FSSAI norms that, of course, have been set up already, that have existed for quite some time now. But, of course, another challenge, largely, of course, Ritangshu, while we're still seeing that in Karnataka there is implementation that's happening to some extent, there are monthly reports that are being submitted now by the health department. The fact is that, in many states still we don't even have the basic, checks and balances that are in place. So we'll really have to wait and see. Of course, probably a warning, and then followed to that is when, we may even be seeing more stern action coming in from the health department, the way they've meted out to, in fact, several establishments, several eateries in the past as well that have faced severe and hefty amounts of fines and some even closure in the past owing to lack of safety standards.
All right, Neha, thank you so much for joining us with your report and also trying to give us more perspective and more details about that also on the urban dividend. Thanks a lot, Neha. But let me now go across to Dr. Sudhir Kumar. Dr. Kumar, I need you to weigh in on the importance and the potential impact of these colors. And I say it because as someone who lived in Bengaluru, albeit many, many years ago, there was a time when the amount of ignorance of these banned colors was so less that some of the medicines that was prescribed to me as a childhood asthmatic had the color tartrazine in it. It's only after, in my case, my parents did extensive research and found out that tartrazine as a color, far from healing you, actually makes it worse when it comes to childhood asthma. Now we have reached a point that tartrazine is thankfully a banned color in most food products as well. What are the impacts, firstly, of having these having these banned colors, and what needs to be done in order to try and increase the awareness in the general community amongst these about these colors?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me and also discussing this very important topic. So I would like to briefly touch upon three aspects. Number one is this particular incident where colors beyond permissible limits have been found in about 5% of the samples. So, and what we know already from literature is that there is no direct human studies which have proven that these agents can cause cancer. But we do have animal studies where if these colors dyes were used in very high amount, then it could cause cancer in rodents and few other animals. So extrapolating that data to humans, yes, definitely if these coloring agents are consumed over a long period of time, it could pose health hazards, including the risk of cancer. And the second thing is going, on the same topic of the cancer, we remember one incident which happened, reported from Patiala, Punjab in April, where a young girl, actually she had died after consuming a cake, which after investigation was found that it had a very high amount of saccharin, that is sugar sweetener. So anyway, I think so the main thing to highlight here is that it poses a health hazard, but there is no need to panic at the moment, because it just alerts us and we have to be very, very careful, and investigations are being done, and as other experts have pointed out, there should be penalty for those who are found guilty so that the food can be safe. The second point is on the larger level adulteration of the food. A few months back we had reports of popular brands of spices which were found to be adulterated. And then we keep, and also from the health point of view, there are many unhygienic food products. And now people are ordering food from outside. It's become a common practice. So the risk of infections and those things are also in there. And finally, I would like to say about the cancer itself. This is one of the small aspects which can lead to increased risk of cancer. But the biggest risk factors are still smoking, air pollution, and then alcohol consumption, obesity, physical inactivity, and the many other factors.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Absolutely. Let me now bring back to Mr. Zagade for the last word. Mr. Zagade, I think a minute or so on my discussion, so I'll let you have the last word on this. This has to be a discussion that has to be held on a holistic level. As Neha pointed out, perhaps a very sensible decision to not immediately start looking at people who are using these colors as small-time bakers as offenders and start punishing them. But what is required is a larger awareness campaign amongst regulators, amongst people who, both the producers and the consumer food products, that it's now time that we look at these colors, something which looks very obviously colored, whether it be a slice of watermelon or whether it be a slice of red velvet pastry or some mutton tikka you see on the streets. You need to start questioning whether this is good for you or not.
Ritangshu, one thing is very clear, that the parliament had in its own wisdom drafted a very good law in 2006, and they gave 4 years time to create the machinery and to create the atmosphere in the country so that the law can be implemented properly. And its implementation started from 2011. So 4 years they took the measures to have this strong machinery across the country. And this was the responsibility of the FCCIs, Health Ministry, Government of India, Health Minister of the state governments, and the Food Safety Commissioner. Now, the law says that the Food Safety Commissioner shall be of the rank of the secretary to the state government. That means the state government, this law has given very importance to the monitoring and implementation of the provisions. Unfortunately, for last so many years, maybe now 13, 14 years now, we are again talking about the sensitization and then the preventive action and education and all that. I think in the meantime, a lot many things are happening which do not, Dr. Saab has said, but see, every now and then they are coloring the vegetables and we really do not know what is happening. So probably the mechanism has failed. And let me tell you one thing, to take action against these manufacturers or the traders or the retailers is one thing. That should be exemplary. And exemplary means the country should know that what action is being. But more than that.
All right. Really, so, Mr. Zagade, you are still firmly in the favor of setting a very exemplary statement by taking action against those who are putting the against the vendors?
Just half a minute.
Mr. Zagade, I'm very sorry. We have to move forward because we have an exclusive lined up on the other side of a short break. I would love to have this conversation, but we will be having this more. But thank you so much, Mr. Zagade, Dr. Anand Sharma, and also Dr. Sudhir Kumar as well. The reason I have to wrap this debate up is because, as promised, on the other side of the short break, the Lebanon ambassador is live with my managing editor, Shreya Dondial. Stay tuned to Mirror Now. That exclusive is coming up in just 2 minutes.